Let's try to analyze the situation in which someone feels empty. This is why you feel empty, and the 9 insights that will change your life. Mind Decode Explained.
Have you ever felt it? A quiet ache in the center of your chest? A feeling that you're walking through a world that's somehow lost its color? It's not sadness, not exactly. It's more like a profound sense of disconnection, as if you're watching your own life from behind a pane of glass. You go through the motions, work, family, responsibilities, and you do them well, but underneath it all, there's a whisper. A persistent, nagging whisper that asks, "Is this all there is?" You see moments of beauty, you feel flashes of joy, but they feel fleeting, like sunlight through passing clouds, never quite reaching the roots of who you are. It's as if you were born with the memory of a vast, vibrant garden, but you woke up in a world of concrete and steel, and you can't for the life of you remember how to get back. You might see little signs of it, this forgotten garden, a strange coincidence that feels too perfect to be random, a song on the radio that speaks the exact words you needed to hear, a chance encounter with a stranger that shifts your entire perspective. You notice these things, these little wildflowers pushing up through the cracks in the pavement, and for a moment, the world feels magical again, imbued with a deeper meaning. But then the moment passes. The logic of the day-to-day world returns, and you dismiss it. A fluke, a coincidence. And the feeling of being an observer, separate and alone, settles back in. You've been told your whole life to focus on what's tangible, what's provable, what's productive. And so, you've learned to pave over the whispers, to ignore the wildflowers, to accept the sterile, gray landscape as the only reality. But the memory of the garden, the ache for home, never truly goes away. This feeling isn't a flaw in your character. It's not a sign of weakness or that you're ungrateful. It is, in fact, a sign of your deepest intelligence waking up. It is the homing beacon of your soul, signaling that the way we've been taught to live is no longer sustainable. It's a profound spiritual homesickness. And it is the most important invitation you will ever receive. The invitation to return to the garden of your own soul, to learn its secret language, and to become its conscious, loving caretaker. This journey we're about to embark on isn't about adding more beliefs or more rules to your life. It's about remembering. It's about peeling back the layers of concrete we've been taught to call reality and rediscovering the rich, living soil that has been there all along, waiting for you. The insights we'll explore together today come from a story, a parable for our times, called the Celestine Prophecy. But the wisdom itself is ancient, echoed in mystics and poets and quiet revolutionaries throughout history. It is a map back to ourselves. If any of this resonates with you, if you feel the gentle pull of that forgotten garden, then I invite you to walk with me for a while. Let's explore this landscape together. And if our journey speaks to you, consider subscribing to Mind Decode Explained, so we can continue to tend to these profound inner worlds. Together, the very first step on this path is simply to acknowledge the wildflowers. It's the insight that these meaningful coincidences, these moments of synchronicity, are not random. The great psychologist Carl Jung, who dedicated his life to mapping the inner world, called synchronicity a causal connecting principle. It's a beautiful, academic way of saying that the universe is having a conversation with you. These events are not caused by a linear chain of logic that you can track. They are moments where the inner world of your thoughts and feelings aligns perfectly with the outer world of events. They are winks from the universe, confirming that you are on the right path. For so long, we've been taught to look for our path on a map drawn by someone else. But the truth is, the path reveals itself one wildflower at a time. The first invitation is to trust these moments. When a coincidence sends a shiver down your spine, don't dismiss it. Lean in. Ask, "What are you trying to show me?" This is the first crack in the concrete, The first sign that there is indeed something more, something deeply personal and spiritual, operating just beneath the surface of our lives. You begin to shift from a passive observer to an active participant in a grand, mysterious dialogue. But why did we ever pave over the garden in the first place? Why did we come to distrust this magic? This leads us to a broader perspective, a look at the very soil of our collective history. For centuries, our connection to the garden, to the spiritual, was tended to by large institutions. The church told us what the universe was, who we were, and what our purpose was. It provided a sense of order and meaning, a grand story we all fit into. But that story, for all its comfort, also built a wall around the garden. It said, "We are the only gardeners. We will tell you how to tend to your soul." Then, a great shift occurred. The Renaissance and the age of science came and challenged that old story. We began to look for answers not just in Scripture, but in the stars, in the laws of physics, in the tangible world. We traded the old certainties for a new quest to understand the mechanics of the universe. And in this quest, we achieved miracles. We built cities, cured diseases, and created comforts our ancestors couldn't have dreamed of. We became masters of the material world. But in our focus on the provable, the measurable, the concrete, we forgot something vital. Science, for all its power, couldn't give us the one thing the old stories did, a sense of ultimate meaning and purpose. It could tell us how the universe works, but it couldn't tell us why. So, we found ourselves in a strange new world, a world of incredible material wealth and profound spiritual poverty. We have more comfort than ever, more entertainment, more distraction, and yet, that quiet ache of emptiness persists, perhaps more loudly than ever. We are waking up now, as a collective, like someone coming out of a long, distracting dream, and realizing our home is not in order. We've built a magnificent house, but we've forgotten the garden that sustains it. This feeling you have, this homesickness, is not just your own. It is the collective cry of humanity, ready to remember, ready to look inward and find the meaning that no external achievement can provide. It is time to reconnect with the garden. So, how do we do that? We begin by changing the very way we see the world. The third insight is a monumental shift in perception. It asks us to understand that the universe, at its most fundamental level, is not made of solid, separate things. It is a single, immense, dynamic field of energy. Everything you see, the chair you're sitting on, the light from your screen, your own body is a vibration in this field. It's not just a philosophical idea, it is the bedrock of modern physics. But this insight goes a step further. It suggests that this universal energy is not just dumb, inert stuff. It is intelligent. It is responsive. It responds, most profoundly, to our attention, our intention, our thoughts, and our feelings. Think of your garden. You've been taught that it's just a collection of separate plants. But now, you're invited to see it as a single, interconnected ecosystem. The soil, the roots, the leaves, the air, it's all one system of flowing energy. And you, the gardener, are not separate from it. Your thoughts of care, your feelings of love, your focused attention, these are not just abstract emotions. They are tangible forces that direct the flow of this life energy. You can literally pour your energy into the garden and it will respond. How do we start to perceive this? The key is not to strain your eyes, trying to see auras or magical glows. The key is through the portal of beauty. Beauty is the frequency of this vital energy made visible or sensible. When you pause to truly appreciate the intricate pattern on a leaf, the deep, impossible color of a flower petal, or the warm light of the setting sun, you are doing more than just observing. You are tuning your own energetic field to the frequency of that beauty. You are aligning yourself with the life force of the universe. In that moment of deep appreciation, you stop being a separate observer and you become part of the flow. Some people might perceive this flow as colors, as an aura around a plant or a person. Others might feel it as a palpable warmth or a tingling sensation. Still others might just feel a profound sense of peace and connection. The way you perceive it is unique to you, like your own personal radio receiver. The mistake is to believe there's only one right way to see it. The invitation is simply to start practicing. Go into nature, or simply look at a houseplant, or even look at a piece of art that moves you. Don't just look at it. Be with it. Allow yourself to be filled with a sense of wonder and appreciation for its existence. In that moment of communion, you are watering the garden of your soul with the very energy of the cosmos. You are learning the language of life itself. But if this beautiful, life-giving energy is all around us, available to everyone, why do our interactions with others so often feel draining, competitive, and painful? This brings us to a difficult but crucial truth, the fourth insight. For millennia, living in a consciousness of scarcity and separation, we humans have forgotten that we can draw energy directly from the source, from the universe itself. And so, we have turned to the only other source we can see, each other. We have been unconsciously competing for human attention and energy. Think of it in terms of our garden metaphor. Imagine every person is a garden, and we've all forgotten that the sun and the rain are freely available. So instead, we devise clever and often destructive ways to siphon water and nutrients from the gardens next to us. This unconscious competition is the hidden dynamic beneath so much of human conflict. When someone dominates a conversation, belittling others to make themselves feel important, they are trying to pull energy. When someone plays the victim, making everyone around them feel guilty and responsible, they are trying to solicit energy. When someone acts distant and mysterious, hoping to intrigue others into constantly thinking about them, they are trying to get energy sent their way. We do this because on a deep, primal level, we feel depleted. We feel that inner emptiness, that wilted state in our own garden, and we desperately reach for anything to make us feel full and vibrant again. This competition is the root of so much aging, stress, and illness. We are literally draining the life force from one another in a desperate, futile struggle, all because we've forgotten to look up at the sun. This is a stark realization, and it can be disheartening, but it is immediately followed by the most liberating news imaginable, the fifth insight. The competition is utterly, completely unnecessary. The energy we are fighting over is not a finite resource. It is infinite. The universe is an endless wellspring of this vital, creative energy. You do not need to take it from anyone else because you can connect directly to the source and fill yourself to overflowing anytime you want. The conduit for this connection is what we call love. And here we must dismantle a common thorn, a misconception about love. We often think of love as an emotion we feel for someone or something specific. We see it as a transaction. I give you my love and you give me yours. But this insight reframes love entirely. Love is not something you give or take. It is a state of being you enter. It is the background feeling that arises naturally when you are connected to the infinite energy of the universe. As the book says, it's not an intellectual concept or a moral imperative. It is the emotional texture of connection. When you feel genuine love, not possessive attachment, but expansive, unconditional love, you have opened the valve to the universe. Think of your garden again. When you stand in it and feel a deep, genuine love for its existence, for the miracle of its life, you are not just having a nice thought. You are creating an energetic current. You are opening yourself up to the sunlight, and that sunlight flows through you and into the garden, nourishing both you and the plants. The act of loving, of appreciating, of being in a state of grace is the act of filling your own well. This is why being in love can feel so energizing, so magical. For a time, you are connected to the infinite. Being in this state of love, This open connection to the universe is the most fulfilling, most joyful, most deeply satisfying experience a human can have. It is not about self-sacrifice. It is the ultimate act of self-care. It is learning to let the universe itself water your garden. So, the path is clear. Stop competing and start connecting to the source. But it's not as simple as flipping a switch. We have spent lifetimes, and generations before us have spent their lifetimes perfecting the strategies for stealing energy from others. These ingrained patterns of behavior are what the sixth insight calls control dramas. They are the deeply rooted weeds in our garden, the unconscious habits we developed in childhood to secure the attention and energy we needed to survive. To become a conscious gardener, we must first learn to identify these weeds. There are 4 primary types of these dramas. 2 are aggressive, actively demanding energy. The first is the intimidator. This is the thorny, overbearing plant in the garden that creates fear. It chokes out the plants around it through threats, anger, and dominance, forcing them to shrink and give up their space and sunlight. The second aggressive drama is the interrogator. This is the clever vine that wraps itself around other plants, constantly probing, questioning, criticizing, and looking for flaws. It drains energy by putting others on the defensive, making them doubt themselves until their own energy wilts. The other 2 dramas are passive, creating conditions where others feel compelled to send energy. The first is aloofness. This is the plant that grows a tall, mysterious, hard shell. It holds back, acts distant and enigmatic, creating a sense of mystery that entices others. People become fascinated. They try to figure the aloof person out, and in doing so, they send a steady stream of their focused attention and energy toward them. The final, and perhaps most common passive drama, is the poor me. This is the perpetually wilting plant. It sighs, it complains, it recounts its endless misfortunes. It uses guilt and pity to make others feel responsible for its well-being, effectively guilting them into offering up their own water and sunlight to keep it from collapsing. Now, as we identify these, the immediate human reaction is shame. Oh no, I do that. But here, the wisdom of a therapist like Brené Brown is essential. These dramas are not your identity. They are your armor. They are the strategies a small, vulnerable child devised to get their needs met in a world that felt unsafe or unloving. The renowned trauma expert Bessel van der Kolk teaches us that our bodies and nervous systems remember these survival patterns. They are not character flaws. They are echoes of an old pain. Seeing your control drama is not a moment for self-flagellation. It is a moment of profound self-compassion. It is the moment the conscious gardener looks at a persistent weed and says, "Ah, I see you. I understand why you grew here. You were trying to protect this garden when it was young and vulnerable. Thank you for your service. But now, we don't need you anymore. We have access to the sun." The process of clearing these dramas is twofold. First, we must see them clearly in ourselves. What is your go-to strategy when you feel insecure or depleted? Do you lash out? Do you pick others apart? Do you withdraw? Or do you play the victim? Simply being aware of the pattern as it arises is half the battle. The second step is to look back with compassion at your upbringing. What were your parents' control dramas? How did they compete for energy with each other and with you? An intimidating parent often creates a poor me child or another intimidator. An aloof parent can create an interrogator child, desperately trying to break through the wall. Understanding this isn't about blame. It's about seeing the generational pattern of these weeds being passed down. Your parents were also just trying to survive with the tools they had. By understanding the unconscious lessons they taught you, you can finally see the higher purpose hidden within the conflict. You can see what your soul was trying to learn. In this realization, you become a synthesis of your parents' light, free from the shadows of their pain. You gently pull the weeds from your garden, roots and all, not with anger, but with understanding. and in the cleared space, something new can finally grow. Once you begin clearing the weeds of your control dramas, you create open space in your garden. The seventh insight teaches us how to consciously cultivate this space and plant the seeds of our true purpose. With the noise of the old dramas turned down, you can finally begin to hear the quieter, more subtle guidance that has been there all along, your intuition. This isn't some mystical, unknowable force. Your intuition is the quiet wisdom of your higher self, the blueprint for your unique garden. It speaks to you in dreams, in daydreams, in gut feelings, in the wildflower moments of synchronicity. The practice now is to actively listen. This involves contemplation and meditation, not necessarily sitting in a formal posture for hours, but creating moments of quiet in your day to simply be with yourself. In these moments, you can focus on the great questions of your life. Who am I? Really? What am I here to do? But often, these questions are too big. So, the insight suggests we start with the smaller, more immediate questions. What is my very next step? What is the one thing my life is asking of me right now? As you hold these questions gently in your mind, without forcing an answer, you create a vacuum that your intuition will rush to fill. The answers may not come as a booming voice from the heavens. They will come as a sudden urge to call an old friend, an idea for a project that appears out of nowhere, a book that falls off a shelf, a recurring dream. These are the seeds, delivered by the universe specifically for your garden. Your job is to notice them, trust them, and plant them. By following this steady stream of intuitive guidance, you consciously align yourself with your soul's evolutionary path. You stop trying to force a life you think you should have and begin allowing the life that is meant for you to unfold naturally, beautifully. As your garden begins to flourish, as you become more connected to your own energy and intuition, you will naturally begin to change how you relate to others. This is the heart of the eighth insight, a new ethic for human interaction. Having learned to draw energy from the infinite source, you are no longer a competitor. You become a conduit. You arrive in every interaction full, with energy to spare. This transforms everything. You realize that your evolution cannot happen in a vacuum. A single beautiful garden is lovely, but a whole ecosystem of thriving gardens is a paradise. You understand that every person who crosses your path is there for a reason. There is always a message, always a gift, always a shared learning. You start to practice this new ethic by uplifting everyone you meet. You make eye contact with strangers and offer a genuine smile. When you feel that intuitive nudge to speak to someone, you follow it. You learn to listen, truly listen, not to find fault or prepare your rebuttal, but to feel the truth of their experience and to hear the message they may have for you. Everyone who shows up in your life is a mirror, reflecting a part of yourself back to you, and a messenger, carrying a seed for your garden. This insight also profoundly reframes our most intimate relationships. It warns against the danger of what we call codependency. This is when two people, each feeling incomplete, latch onto one another to form a single, closed energy system. Initially, it feels ecstatic, the falling in love phenomenon. They pour their energy into each other, and it feels like they have found their missing half. But because they are not connected to the infinite source, their shared energy is finite. Eventually, they use it up, and they begin to drain each other. The old control dramas re-emerge as they start competing for energy within the relationship. This is the all-too-common cycle of falling in and then out of love. The higher path is for two whole individuals, two consciously tended gardens, to come together. Neither needs the other for their energy. Instead, they stand side by side, each connected to the universal source, and they share their overflow. Together, they don't become one dependent unit. They form what the prophecy calls a super-person, a partnership that amplifies their individual connection to the divine and creates something far greater than the sum of its parts. Their relationship becomes a sacred space that supports the evolution of both souls. And this brings us to the final, breathtaking vista of this journey, the ninth insight. It is the vision of our conscious evolution. As we live this way, clearing our past, connecting to the infinite source of energy, following our intuition, and uplifting others, something remarkable begins to happen. Our very being begins to vibrate at a higher frequency. Think of it in terms of music. For most of our history, we've been playing a slow, heavy, often dissonant tune. But as we do this inner work, the frequency of our energy rises. The music becomes lighter, more harmonious, more beautiful. The more beauty we can perceive in the world, the more we evolve. The more we evolve, the higher our vibration becomes. This isn't just a metaphor. As we fill ourselves with the energy of love and release the dense energies of fear and conflict, our physical bodies literally become lighter, more radiant. The prophecy suggests that as humanity as a whole continues this process, we will eventually raise our collective vibration to such a level that we will transcend the limitations of this physical dimension. We would begin to perceive realities, dimensions of love and beauty that are all around us right now, but are invisible to our current, denser state of perception. We would, in essence, walk into the heaven that has been here all along. This isn't about escaping the world or waiting for an afterlife. It is about transforming our experience of this world, right here, right now. It's about tending to the garden of our soul with such love and dedication that it becomes a paradise on earth, a place so filled with light and life and beauty that it merges with the greater light of the cosmos. At some point, the prophecy envisions a critical mass of individuals vibrating at this high level, allowing our entire species to make a conscious shift into a more loving, more beautiful state of existence, disappearing from the perception of those still locked in the old, dense reality, much like spiritual masters throughout history are said to have done. And that is an incredibly powerful thought. It suggests that the fate of our world doesn't rest in the hands of politicians or corporations, but in the quiet, courageous work we are each willing to do in our own inner garden. It begins with you. It begins with the choice, in this very moment, to stop and acknowledge a single wildflower growing in the concrete, to honor the synchronicity, to choose love over fear, to identify a weed with compassion, to listen to the whisper of your own soul. The journey to heaven is not a journey to another place. It is a journey deeper into ourselves. It is the patient, loving, and ultimately joyful work of tending to the garden, until it becomes so radiant that it is indistinguishable from the light of the stars. The power to create this world is, and always has been, within you.